evil is amongst us. Stay back, boy. This calls for divine intervention. I kick ass for the Lord.
Tonight, I say this to my Republican colleagues who are defending the indefensible. There will come a day when Donald Trump is gone, but your dishonor will remain. Representative Liz Chaney, let's talk about the primetime hearing of January 6th committee. Welcome to Heresy and Hearsay, a podcast to reclaim faith in the context of political discussion. I'm Reverend Barney, and you can follow me on Twitter at SethRothII, and you can follow the show on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and any podcast catcher. Just look for Heresy and Hearsay. Please like, share, and subscribe. Also, follow us. Also, give us a review. That helps others find us. I will be doing this solo, but as always, you can find my partner and better half of the podcast, September, on Twitch and Twitter at 9of12. That's NINEOF12. You can also check her out on the Geek Grills podcast and support her on the America's Next Top Podcaster. We are in week 7, I believe. If you have a chance, please catch up. It's a great podcast. You can also find her on the Part-Time Gamer podcast as well. Heresy and Hearsay has a Patreon site that you can find. Just go to patreon.com/heresy and hearsay, where you can visit and support the show. Just $2 a month goes a long way to help support this humble show. You can also contribute on Bits and Twitch and subscribe for free if you have Amazon Prime, as well as just subscribing normally with Amazon Prime when we're back live. We also have a website, which is heresyandhearsay.com. Go there and view our past shows as well as profiles on me in September. So, mental health check real quick. When I'm functional, unfortunately the migraines make it hard to be that way sometimes, but when I'm functional, I've been working on my D&D campaign where I'm the DM. There's been some interesting things that have happened in the last session, so I need to plan for that because they zigged where I thought they were going to zag, and that's just how a DM has to flow and operate. Here we go again. So I'm working on that, getting that set up for our game this week. It's nice to have a D&D game. It's nice to be around people and have some fun. So that's mainly what I've been doing, because the rest of the time I doom scroll and I read a lot of political articles. Shocking, I know, seeing this as a political and religious podcast. I know, I'm shocked as everybody else is. But that's what I've been doing to try to alleviate some of the doom scrolling and stuff like that. I really should set a time frame of when I want look at Twitter. I am addicted to the doom scrolling, so I need to work on that. Before we get any further, however, and we discuss the show and this week's topic, will Brother Bowie lead us in a word of prayer?
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
So a few hours ago, the January 6th committee from the House had their first public hearing. Well, not their first, but their first primetime public hearing. They had some live testimony of some of the officers that were at the Jan 6th insurrection, and they did those live, but this is the first one where they really start laying out the groundwork for their case. And I say it's a case because of the fact that with the Jan 6 committee and everything else, they laid out what they're going to be discussing in the next few weeks. There's going to be multiple hearings. This was the primetime one to kind of set up everybody up for watching it and listening to it. And getting gleams of it. So I did watch the entire thing with some post coverage I was watching from the MSNBC feed. And there were a few things that stuck out to a lot of people, including myself. And I'm going to go over some of that. There'll be some links of live articles from NPR and the New York Times, where they kind of live covered it and hit some salient points on that as well. But what I want to start off with is, pardon me, what I want to start off with is the fact that initially, this committee was supposed to be a kind of a 9/11 non-partisan committee, and then that went away. So Nancy Pelosi decided that she was going to have a bipartisan, equal membership on the committee, and Representative and Minority Leader McCarthy sent in names of people who were, suspect of this investigation to begin with. So it's kind of like having Al Capone be the judge in his own trial at that point. So, and Nancy Pelosi, of course, said, no, those two people can't join. And then McCarthy says, well, then we're not going to have anybody and we're going to take our ball, because he already knew that was going to be the case. So he decided that he was going to sabotage this any way he could. Unfortunately, there were two Republicans, Chaney and Ratzenberger. No, that's not right. No, that's the Secretary of State down in Georgia. Anyways, I apologize. Kinzinger. I finally found it. This is why I always have to have a partner, because I'm bad at remembering things. But anyways, and Representative Kinzinger, who are both Republicans, says, "Oh, we'll join." Yeah, Kinzinger later on decided that he was not going to run for re-election, and Liz Chaney is running for re-election, and Trump is trying to do everything in his power to make sure she doesn't win. There were also two of a small minority of representatives who voted to on the GOP side voted to impeach Donald Trump, which made it the first bipartisan, though it was 10 Republicans, it's still bipartisan impeachment ever. So there's that. So I'm just giving a little bit of the history of how this all got started. And then they started doing investigations, starting asking people to come in and give testimony or do video testimony, because we were still in the midst of a pandemic, and we still are. The pandemic's not over. I'm sorry. It's been 11 months since they started, and this is the first, real laying out of what they have as far as the case is concerned. A lot of people who were former prosecutors or lawyers in general, on some of the post stuff I've read and seen, made it clear that it seemed like a very prosecutical, wow, okay, Daniel, a very laid out case that a prosecutor would do. With that being said, who are they laying that case out to? Probably the Department of not defense. Anyways, Merrick Garland saying, "Hey, Merrick Garland, look, here's why you need to indict these some individuals." Liz Chaney, in her opening statements, talked about how several representatives had asked President Trump for a pardon after January 6th, a pocket pardon or a preemptive pardon, so that they wouldn't get any trouble. Now, whether they got it or not. Now, she did name somebody. She did name somebody right out of the bat, an actual person, and I'm trying to pull that up now. I apologize if I can find that in some of the coverage here. Give me 1 second. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm just taking a look here. Again, this is all kind of really fast and everything else. One of those situations that sometimes the stuff isn't very quick, and I apologize. So I don't have it right in front of me, and I am so sorry about that. I will say that there was also some interesting conversations about how Ivanka Trump, his favorite child, his favorite daughter, his favorite child overall, said that she believed Bill Barr, and Bill Barr was stating the fact that he felt that, in his own words, it was bullshit as far as the fraud charges that Trump kept trying to bring up. So I found that very interesting. That in sworn testimony that Ivanka Trump gave, that was shown tonight, that it was that she believed Bill Barr, which, look, Bill Barr is not a hero in this situation. No one's a hero as far as in the Trump administration is concerned. But I'm just stating the facts as far as this is concerned. Bill Barr saw this coming, and that's why he resigned. Instead of doing something about it, he just left. Because he still wanted to have some kind of credibility with the Republican Party, I guess. I don't know. But he doesn't really anymore with either side. So I have to say that it's not something that's useful. Not something that he can use. It's like, well, I was one of the people that stood up. Yeah, well, right now the Republican Party is trying to do everything it can to protect Trump. So he's kind of outlier right now. I did see a joke tweet about Trump on his Truth Social stating that his new favorite daughter as of right now is Tiffany, which he doesn't like Tiffany at all because she stands up to him quite a bit as well. But that is one of the things that was kind of shocking, is seeing Ivanka Trump basically throwing her father under the bus as far as that's concerned, saying, yeah, I believed Bill Barr, that this election was fair. And once you get past that point and realizing that even Trump didn't believe that it was actually fraudulent, then you come up with a whole other reason why this is going on. A couple of the other things that was really pointed out was how the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers actually met the night before. There was a documentary team following the Proud Boys and caught some footage of them meeting up with some Oath Keepers in a garage underneath the not the Capitol, but in and around Baltimore and DC area, meeting up. Now there was no audio in the video that was shown, so we don't know what they were discussing, but the fact that they met up was kind of damning, and that's why both groups are their leadership is currently in indictments, and some have pleaded guilty to insurrectionist conspiracy. So that's a pretty big deal. And those that pled guilty, I have a funny feeling is going to roll over like tumbleweed, and throw any and all of the other members of their respected or disrespected groups under the bus as much as they can to reduce their sentence, because insurrection conspiracy can lead up to 20 years in jail or more, depending on how many counts. I apologize for the my voice quality and everything. I apologize for that. I hope this doesn't cause too much of an issue. Next on this was the fact that the Proud Boys didn't stick around for President Trump's speech. And that's a big deal because they became basically the spearhead, the column that then attacked the Capitol. They were the ones that were going to breach first, be able to breach first. And then that opens up the gates for all the other people. So it sounds very coordinated at that point, because they left and started towards the Capitol about 10:30, and Trump didn't start speaking until right around noonish, a little before, a little after noon, is when he took the stage and started speaking. It was an hour-long speech because he can shut the fuck up. I've witnessed so many of the Trump rallies, and he cannot shut the fuck up. He is not a concise speaker because he rambles, because he has COVID brain now, especially. But even prior to that, he was never very concise, and he always had to inflect his own personality into things. We also got information about how Trump believed that maybe Mike Pence should be hung. That from testimony and documentation, that the day that this was happening, that someone came to him about the situation, about them chanting "Hang Mike Pence," and that he basically was in agreement. It's like, see, our people are passionate, and maybe they're right. Maybe they should do that to Mike Pence. After that, we learned that during the insurrection, I'm not going to call it a riot, and I'm definitely not going to call it a dust-up, but during the insurrection, there were people with megaphones, they were reading out Donald Trump's tweets as they were being put out, egging the crowd on. We also found that there were multiple people trying to get Trump to do something, anything. Trump didn't contact the National Guard. He didn't contact his Secretary of Defense. It was Mike Pence who actually contacted the Secretary of Defense 3 times. Trump didn't contact him once. Trump didn't contact to do the National Guard, didn't contact the police. He didn't do anything to make this stop. And reports, and we'll probably hear much more of this, because they're building the case from the big lie to the insurrection itself. So it's taking a little bit of time for all of that to happen, but they're building that case right now, and showing their work is basically what they're doing. So we're going, while they showed video of the actual insurrection and everything, and they talked to 2 witnesses, part of the case that they laid out, and they will probably continue to lay out on Monday when they have the hearings on Monday morning, with new hearings, or the public hearings. is that they're going to start laying out the big lie, because that was part of the thing, was setting it up. You can't prove insurrectionist conspiracy without there being a conspiracy, which means that you had to set up how this all got started, and the biggest part of that is the big lie. And we talk about the big lie in historical tense, because that was something that Gorbel once said, that if you make the lie big enough and repeat it enough times, it's hard for people to discount it. And that's basically what the situation was with the election. It's just that Trump kept beating that drum, and then basically told the crowd to show up on a December 16th, 2020 tweet. Show up on January 6th, 2021. It'll be wild. Or it will get wild. And then right after that, Steve Bannon also tweeted something very similar. And this was during a meeting where, if you've read it, it's absolutely hilarious, but it's also scary that this may have helped with that. There was a meeting with Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, and a few other, maybe Mike Lindell. I can't remember if he was at that meeting or not, but several people about martial law and all this kind of stuff. And during that meeting, or about an hour after that meeting, Trump tweeted the January 6th. Come January 6th, it's going to be wild, or it will get wild. Tweet, which I found very telling, that this idea was planted by these individuals, and especially about doing the martial law and other things. But there was even evidence presented that Trump didn't actually believe that the election was wrong anyways, that he knew that the election was correct, and he lost. Now, since then, does he believe that? It's hard to tell. I don't know that man personally, and don't want to. But you can tell yourself a lie long enough that you'll believe it. So, anything's possible. So, with that being said, we move on from there. We talk about other things. They talk about the day of the riot and how everything started going badly very quickly after the rest of the Trump supporters came in, and then we had the officer who was there, one of the officers that was there, Caroline Edward, gave a very great testimony, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the carrot and stick section, but gave a great testimony about this and discussed this in great detail about what was going on. I will say that, one of the things is that she mentioned and said is like, I was trained to be a police officer. I was trained to attain individuals, and occasionally, I had to deal with like public disturbances, but I wasn't trained to be a soldier. It was hours and hours of hand-to-hand combat. And this is after she was already attacked once, was injured, knocked unconscious. When she was brought to, she came back up and kept fighting. So, spoilers, she gets the carrot because of just the horrendous stuff that she had to deal with that day. But discussing further with everything else that was going on as far as the committee was concerned, like I said, they laid out a case of the big lie, promulgated the insurrection conspiracy, which promulgated the insurrection attempt on January 6th. Now, the reason why they can't get full insurrection is because it didn't win, but there was a lot of attempts and a lot of planning, as being proven over and over again. Because I can say this with all honesty, the people who planned this insurrections were a bunch of idiots. They weren't that bright. And because they weren't that bright, they put everything down on paper. Now, Trump typically didn't put anything. He acted like a typical, and still does act like a typical mob boss. I mean, he hung out with mobsters in the 70s and 80s and into the 90s, so he probably picked up a lesson or 12. And one of them is never put anything on paper. That can't be destroyed. Never put anything. That's why he doesn't do emails. That's why the tweets are the tweets. And the tweets can be used against him and are going to be used against him in this. But they have definitely set this up to build a case to show the Department of Justice and Merrick Garland, hey, this is what happened. This is the case that you can be led from point A to point B. And there's also the special, there's also the grand jury and prosecutor down in Atlanta who's already working on this as well. So there could be multiple cases that could be brought. I'll be honest, in my assessment of the things, I really don't see Merrick Garland doing much. As good of a jurist as he would be, he is really bad at being an AG, because those are two different fields. And I don't think he has it in him to honestly do everything that needs to be done. He needs to be pressured. Biden needs to pressure him to go ahead and start forming a case against Donald Trump. I know a lot of people will say, well, it's partisan. Yeah, well, you know what? This is not partisan. This is a man who tried to overthrow our government and to install himself as a dictator. Because do you think he would have stopped after 2024? Do you think he would have then said, well, I've had my 8 years? No. He would have made sure that either himself or one of his children, probably Ivanka, because he hates his other children, would have been then installed as president at that point. And can you look? None of his family is that bright. I have watched interviews with all of them. He is not. He is the smartest one of his family, which is saying a lot because he's a stupid man. So that being said, I don't know. We'll have to see what Merrick Garland decides to do and what the Department of Justice. I think there should be a special prosecutor. Take it out of Merrick Garland's hands. Assign a special prosecutor for the situation, because it's a major situation. I don't know who you assign. Find someone that is impeccable, and it won't work because they'll find problems with it. They'll scream that it is that is partisan witch hunt, blah, 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 that this is partisan witch hunt number 3 or whatever, and you just have to roll with those punches and deal with that, because if you don't, then people like him get away with it, and then the next time, someone who's smarter will get away with it and will be able to do it, because they've already laid the groundwork. They've already put out the handbook on how to try to overthrow this, and they're trying to do that. They're trying to set that up with election laws and everything else. So it's not like this is not something that could happen again. There needs to be consequences for these actions. And I'm just hoping that the Justice Department realizes that. So one of the things I want to read real quick, because I found part of the information that I was looking for earlier. I want to read this real quick. This is from Liz Chaney's opening testimony. By contrast, Jeff Clark has invoked his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination and refused to testify. Representative Scott Perry, who was involved in getting Clark appointed as Attorney General, has refused to testify here. As you will see, Representative Perry contacted the White House in the weeks after January 6th to seek a presidential pardon. Multiple other congressmen also sought presidential pardons for their role in attempting to overturn the 2020 election. End quote. And that was from Liz Chaney. So basically what happened is that they were trying to get a Barr left in December, and so they got somebody in who was going to try and basically follow Trump's belief system, whereas Barr was not, because Barr grew a spine or saw that this was going to, he would lose his license as Giuliani did, or worse, go to jail if he supported this notion that the election was fraudulent, or get sued when he became a citizen after Trump was left office, though not voluntarily. And that when they were trying to do that, they were trying to add these kind of laws, or they were sending, not laws, but they were trying to add these letters, trying to have the different states, swing states, basically throw out their electors and start all over. That was one of the things. And that was something that Trump wanted Pence to do, is basically throw it back to the states, so that these Republican houses would basically overthrow the will of their state and the voters of their state, and have them bring in their own electors who were loyal to Trump, so that at that point Trump would have won the election, because they would have changed the Electoral College, because they would have been disingenuous, or there's a legal term, and I'm not going to look it up, but there's a legal term for those of the Electoral College that are appointed that go against the the will of the people, and basically they would have voted for Trump, versus what the Electoral College did, which was go by the will of the people and vote for Biden. So that is one of the things that was interesting and shocking, especially the fact that there were multiple Congress individuals. Now, she said congressmen. That's a possibility that it was all just men. I have a feeling that there may have been a couple of women involved, but I don't know. I don't have that evidence. And they didn't name any other names other than the Scott Perry, who supposedly asked for a pardon. And of course, Scott Perry put out a statement saying that no, he never did. It's a bunch of lies. Well, if they have evidence, then who are you going to believe? Scott Perry or the truth? Well, if you're a Trump supporter, it's whatever. Anyways, my point to this is that this first set of hearings this first hearing has been very interesting, and have shedded a lot of light that we haven't seen before. And I find that captivating, fascinating. I find it that there is a lot more stuff that we were seeing live, but we didn't see everything. And what we didn't see is really scary. Made me all angry all over again, seeing all of this. So we'll see what the next few weeks hold as far as the hearings are concerned. In the meantime, I do believe it is time that we kind of wrap up this show today. And we'll start by doing our carrot and stick.
Me. What's up, Doc?
So first is our carrot, and that, as I stated a bit earlier, was going to Officer Caroline Edwards for her honest but painful yet needed testimony tonight. I want to thank you for your bravery for tonight, and especially on January 6th. If you ever get a chance, I would definitely listen to her testimony in full, as she is questioned, and there is a lot of scary information or added information. Like I said, she was injured, was knocked unconscious, came back, woke back up, and then got back into it again, trying to defend the Capitol. She was also acting as a medic at the same time, as her colleagues were getting sprayed by pepper spray and bear mace, as well as other things, and finding herself slipping in the blood of God knows who, as they were injuring officers, beating them with baseball bats and thin blue line flags, poles and flags and whatever else they could get their hands on. And she stood her ground, did the best she could in that situation, trying to help her fellow officers. She's still recovering from injuries, a year and a half later. Concussions, probably, other things. So she gets the carrot. She gets the golden carrot, which is only the second time we've given a golden carrot here. So, and the stick. The stick goes to the GOP for trying their best to make it seem like the nation wasn't under attack on January 6th. That it was a dust-up. That was a comment made by the defensive coordinator for the Washington Commanders, who is a right-wing conspiracy theorist along with the owner. So, don't pull for the Washington Commanders. Just ignore them. But there were other things. They tweeted how this was old news and we should get past it, and how this was just a farce and everything else. And trying to deflect. Of course, Fox News didn't cover it live because, God forbid, their anchors or those individuals who were texting the president and Mark Meadows and all of them, like Laura Ingraham and Sean Hannity, they're are a part of this problem. So God forbid that the Fox viewers actually see some truth on Fox News, especially at primetime. So, but yeah, the GOP trying to do everything they could to deflect. Jim Jordan said something that's like, well, where are all the hearings about the botched Afghanistan withdrawal? Well, it was Trump who released 5,000 Taliban fighters, as well as multiple members of their leadership. He's the one who set the date, and then, through his own admission, claimed he wasn't actually going to keep the date because we were still going to stay in Bagram. Multiple speeches have stated that. So, again, someone who was basically making it where people can't trust the United States when they make promises. So that was definitely Trump who did that, and Biden was just trying to clean up. And it wasn't going to be an easy thing, no matter who left, or who did it, because the Afghan government, quote unquote, that we were propping up for 15 years or so, was going to fall to pieces as soon as we left. So it was going to be a mess from the beginning. So, with that being said, I want to thank you for joining us at Heresy and Hearsay. I'm Raymond Barney, and you can follow me on Twitter at SethRothII. You can find the show on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and podcasts, as well as our website. Just Google us. Don't forget our Patreon page, where $2 a month can keep this show going. And you can find my partner on Twitch and Twitter at 9 of 12. That's NINEOF 12, and you can follow her on the Geek Girls podcast, as well as the Part-Time Gamers podcast, and please support her in the game show America's Next Top Podcaster. Like I said, I think we're on week 7 right now, and I think it's at that point individuals. I think it will be a great thing. Just support her, to listen and give all the support you can. And I want to thank you for listening today, and bless your hearts.